Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a tactical debrief of humanity's final, absolutely explosive evolutionary clash, the Eco-Proxy War. On one side, you have these hyper-industrialized, decaying megacities. On the other, a fully integrated, biologically engineered ecosystem. And listen, this wasn't just a battle over territory. It was a high-stakes, edge-of-your-seat proxy war for the genetic future of our species, completely fueled by raw survival and weaponized biology. It all really boils down to one fatal question. What happens when a desperate, dying corporate megacity decides to pick a fight with a literal, living ecosystem? The corporate overlords thought they were targeting these helpless pacifists just sitting in the dirt. But man, they couldn't have been more wrong. Instead, they triggered the deadliest, most sophisticated biological weapon system on Earth. To really grasp this conflict, we gotta look at what was actually at stake here. The corporate megacities were completely trapped in this nightmare cycle of recycled toxic sludge, rampant cellular degradation, and failing indoor food systems. I mean, they were literally rotting from the inside out. But just beyond their walls, that was Solarpunk territory. And to the cyberpunks, this wasn't just a nice nature reserve, it was an unexploited gold mine. We're talking pristine groundwater, uncorrupted biomass, and a fiercely protected genome. The megacities were desperate, and as we all know, desperate people make catastrophic tactical errors. Okay, let's dive right into this. When the corporate scouting drones swept over the Badlands, they didn't find toxic dust, they found life. They immediately slapped a Grade A extraction zone label on it. First up on their hit list, pristine groundwater. The Solarpunks naturally purified deep aquifers using deep-root bioremediation. To a city drinking copper-tasting, heavily recycled sludge, this was liquid wealth. Second, uncorrupted biomass. The corporations desperately needed those hyper-resilient, open-pollinated crops to reboot their blighted agricultural towers. And third, and this is the darkest prize of the whole lot, the Solarpunk genome. Corporation executives were entirely willing to wage a bloody proxy war just to harvest organs and tissues of the Solarpunks. They were specifically targeting their flawless lymphatic filters for elite anti-aging therapies. Just brutal extraction. So the corporations draw up their raid, and they base their entire tactical insertion on this one anomaly they observed, called the midday stillness. They're watching drone feeds showing hundreds of Solarpunks, Homo verdantes, lying completely motionless on these stone terraces in the midday sun, eyes closed. The corporate commanders thought, bingo, this is our tactical window. They deployed heavy mechanized infantry and autonomous combat droids, completely assuming they were dropping in on defenseless pacifists. No bunkers, no heavy artillery, just sleeping targets. It was, without a doubt, the most fatal miscalculation in military history. I want you to listen to this intercepted comms drop from Strike Team Alpha. Imagine the sudden, gripping panic in the commander's voice as he realizes what's happening. Target site secured. Local primitives are totally unresponsive. Wait, the air is changing. Sensors are picking up a massive chemical spike in the canopy. It's blinding the optics. That exact millisecond, that is when the trap snapped shut. The ambush wasn't executed with guns, it was triggered by the environment itself.
The cyberpunks forgot one absolutely crucial detail. The Solarpunks are the environment. The entire ecosystem is their defense network. Here's the rapid-fire breakdown of how this weapon system activated. Step 1, the mycelial alarm. Heavy corporate boots crush the root systems, instantly firing a miles-wide electrochemical distress signal through underground fungi. Step 2, airborne phytotoxins rapidly deploy straight from the canopy. Step 3, the ATP awakening. That midday stillness? Yeah, they weren't sleeping. They were solar charging. They woke up completely flooded with cellular energy, moving through the fog with hyper-acute precision. And then, step 4, bioelectric EMPs.
Now, this wasn't just some standard poison gas. This was visceral, highly targeted chemical warfare. The engineered canopy released these dense, corrosive spores. Within literally seconds of the breach, the corporate soldiers' respirator filters were completely clogged. Aggressive, metal-eating fungi began rapidly expanding, physically dissolving their synthetic cybernetics from the inside out. It's terrifying. The invaders were choking on a microscopic army they couldn't even shoot back at. But hey, what about the combat droids? They don't breathe, right? Well, enter those bioelectric EMPs I mentioned. The solarpunks had carefully cultivated specific groves of bioelectric fields, plants biologically engineered to store and then violently discharge massive electrical currents. The exact moment the battle started, the very ground beneath the synthetic combat droids surged with raw electricity, instantly frying their artificial nervous systems. The entire extraction force was neutralized, and the solarpunks didn't fire a single traditional bullet. Section 1. Strategy. The Biological Overwrite. Subtitle: Forced Ecological Succession. Let's see how the tables turned. The corporate raid had totally failed, but now the solarpunks went on the offensive. To them, the megacities were essentially a cancerous wound that needed to be healed by force. You can hear the sheer, desperate terror of this biological overwrite in this leaked memo from the Director of Urban Security. He writes, "The automated defense turrets are offline, the copper wiring inside them sprouted microscopic mold that literally ate the circuits. Sector 4 has been entirely breached by giant ferns. We are losing the city to a garden." They couldn't fight back because their weapons were quite literally being digested by offensive bioagents. This was a systematic, totally asymmetric rewilding of the megacities. The boundaries were violently erased. Just look at the tactical execution here. Microscopic mold neutralized the electronics. Giant ferns were deployed specifically to crack and burst heavy hydraulic lines. They even used psychological biowarfare. They flooded the lower city tiers with engineered floral scents that chemically induced extreme docility, making corporate security forces literally too peaceful to even try fighting back. As concrete walls collapsed outward from the immense pressure of exploding root systems, the toxic smog was forcibly replaced by clean, oxygen-rich air. The corporate towers were rapidly terraformed into vertical wetlands, forcing the cyberpunks out of their synthetic shells for good. So, as the concrete falls, society fractures. The ultra-wealthy elite stubbornly retreated into these dead-end high-tech bunkers. But, without a labor force to maintain them, those systems decayed, and plastic-eating bacteria eventually seeped through the ventilation. They just died out, frozen monuments to an obsolete era. Meanwhile, the adaptable middle-class refugees actually stepped out into the sunlight. They brought their data expertise straight to the solarpunk scientists, choosing to survive together through a monumental scientific joint effort. Now, merging these two groups wasn't as simple as just moving in together. Natural interbreeding was completely biologically impossible at this point in the timeline. The barriers were just too deep. First, chromosomal mismatch. The solarpunks had altered their genome generations ago with symbiotic plant and fungal DNA loops. The genetics simply didn't line up anymore. Second, biochemical rejection. The solarpunk immune system was highly alkaline and organic. It treated the heavy metals and nanoplastics inherent in cyberpunk biology as an outright toxic biohazard, destroying it instantly. And finally, mechanical barriers. The cyber lineage had highly synthesized reproductive anatomy, optimized for cloning, not natural birth. So they needed a radically different scientific approach to save humanity. Section 2. The Final Lineage. Subtitle: Introducing Homosynthesis. Let's look at the ultimate result of this joint effort. Through assisted retroviral gene vectors, scientists actually pulled it off. They successfully bridged flesh, plant, and machine. Homosynthesis inherited the ultimate survival mechanisms of both evolutionary paths, but without any of the toxic extremes. Check out these incredible biological traits. They have photosynthetic neuromelanin, which allows them to process data faster under high UV light by wiring dermal chloroplasts directly into a bioneural network. It's insane. They also use biocompatible tech. They completely bypass cold iron and plastics, instead interfacing through organic data ports made of hardened plant fiber and highly conductive fungal mycelium. And lastly, the ultimate immune system. It's a collaborative masterpiece that can filter out industrial toxins and actually use them to synthesize complex defensive biochemicals. They are, quite literally, the perfect hybrid. Which leaves us with this final, thrilling reality to consider. For centuries, our instinct has always been to build walls, to pave over the earth, to conquer our environment in the name of progress. But looking at the explosive fall of the megacities and the awe-inspiring rise of homosynthesis, we really have to ask ourselves, will humanity's final survival strategy come not from conquering nature, but from finally letting it hack us back? Think about that next time you look at the world outside your own window. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.